Thank you for joining today's conference. Welcome to the ISO. Before we begin, please ensure you have opened the WebEx participant and chat panels by using the associated icons located at the bottom of your screen. Note that all audio connections are muted at this time. And if you require technical assistance, please send a chat to the event producer. With that, I'll turn the conference over to Radha Madrigal, Lead Client Trainer. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Will. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the California ISO. Today's quarterly webinar is scheduled for 2 hours and is intended to provide an introduction to an audience that comes from a broad spectrum, from energy sector newcomers to public officials and regulators to ISO veterans who may already be familiar with various ISO functions. My name is Radha Madrigal, Lead Client Trainer in the Customer Readiness Department, and I will be facilitating today's discussion. On behalf of the ISO, thank you for joining us today. Let's take a look at the primary topics we will touch on today. These topics are intended to be high level to give you a general understanding of the ISO and its functions, and you will be pointed to where you may find more information that is impactful for you. This webinar is being recorded, so if you would like to hear it again or if you think it would be helpful to others at your organization, it will be posted on our Learning Center webpage in approximately 3 to 5 business days, along with a copy of the slides. The final slides will also contain some helpful links that relate to the material covered today. Along with this recorded webinar and slides are many other informational resources, including customer-based training courses and other initiative-related recorded webinars. I will show you how to find our Learning Center later in this presentation. There will be breaks during the discussion when the operator will open the phone lines for verbal questions. If you have questions throughout the presentation that you want to have addressed, you can also type your question in the chat at any time, and the moderator will read it on your behalf during the Q&A sections. If we can't answer your question right away, we will research the topic and email a response to all of the participants. Just to set expectations, around about slide 25, halfway through the presentation, is when I intend to take the first question break. Approximately 2/3 of the United States and more than half of Canada is broken up into 9 energy regions. Independent System Operators, or ISOs, or Regional Transmission Operators, RTOs, are the federally regulated regional organizations that perform the same functions of coordinating, controlling, and monitoring the operation of the electrical power system, as well as acting as a marketplace for wholesale power for these regions. Similar to a stock exchange, an ISO never actually owns or takes title to the energy that is purchased and sold, and only acts as the mechanism to bring buyers and sellers of energy and energy services together. The California ISO is one of these entities and resides in the regional area known as the Western Interconnection. Though the ISOs and RTOs have different ways of operating their grids and markets, we all participate together in the ISO-RTO Council that is committed to work together to build a smarter and more efficient grid that is prepared to meet North American market and consumer needs. During this course, we will be focusing on the California ISO, hereafter referred to just simply as ISO, and its processes. But it is important to note that if you are doing work with other ISOs, being aware of the differences in how they all operate and the terminology used will be a great benefit in allowing your interaction to be more successful. Like many other ISOs, the California ISO is a nonprofit public benefit corporation. We are responsible for the constant and reliable flow of electricity for the health, safety, and welfare of consumers. But unlike a public utility, we are profit neutral, independent, and we do not serve end-use customers. We operate the transmission system, but not distribution lines. Those are operated and maintained by the utilities, who also perform maintenance on generators and transmission systems. Unlike the utilities, we do not own any transmission or generation assets, and we do not take ownership of the energy on the system. We do, however, coordinate the maintenance of these grid facilities to ensure sufficient resources are available to meet the needs of consumers. It is our resolve to facilitate a fair and transparent wholesale energy market and we accomplish that through our policies, planning, and initiatives. We provide state-of-the-art technology that allows for enhanced situational awareness of the state of the bulk electric grid to help grid operators maintain reliability and keep the lights on. We have a comprehensive transmission planning process to accommodate the need for system expansion, as well as clearing the way for clean green resources to access the grid. We actively engage with state and federal entities to support policy and regional goals for integration of more distributed and clean power products and improved coordination over larger geographical areas to enhance reliability and lower costs. The ISO is located in the Western Interconnection, which is represented here. In addition to being an ISO, we are also registered as a balancing authority, or BA. While all ISOs are BAs, not all BAs are ISOs. A balancing authority area, or BAA, is a combination or set of intertie points and resources, and the balancing authority is responsible for matching generation and load while maintaining the electric frequency of the grid. There are 39 separate BAs in the West, each with the same core functions of preparing the system for next day operations using resources within their boundaries, as well as taking into account imported energy from neighboring BAs and matching changing supply with changing demand in real time. The ISO is the largest BA in this region, handling an estimated 36% of the electric load in the Western Interconnection. Utilities, such as investor-owned utilities or public utilities, sit inside of the boundaries of a BAA, and their energy may be shared throughout the entire interconnection, enhancing reliability through greater resource pools, as well as helping achieve renewable generation targets and managing costs. As this energy is shared between BAAs, continual communication and accurate tracking between the BAs is critical to maintaining situational awareness of grid efficiency. Electronic tagging, or e-tagging, tracks the energy that is scheduled to flow between BAAs. E-tags contain data that allows us to model where energy is being produced and consumed and what transmission lines are being utilized for reliability and settlement purposes. As an ISO and BA, we must adhere to strict oversight from, oops, that's the wrong page. Let me pause for a moment here. Here we go. On July 1st, the ISO became the official reliability coordinator of record for 16 electricity balancing authorities and transmission operators, primarily in California and one in Mexico. The cutover marks the first phase of a transition of power grid oversight responsibility from peak reliability to the ISO service RC West. It culminates work the ISO began in January 2018 to become a reliability coordinator for entities within its footprint and to offer the service to all balancing authorities and transmission operators in the West. The series of milestones are listed at the bottom of the slide. In the first operational phase, RC West officially took over RC services for balancing authorities and transmission for the majority of California, and one entity in Mexico, Centro Nacional de Control de Energía, or CENACE. In early November, following additional certifications by the North American Electric Reliability Corporation and the Western Electricity Coordinating Council, the ISO anticipates that the RC West will become the reliability coordinator for another 23 entities in the Western Interconnection, overseeing 87% of the load in the Western United States. A reliability coordinator has the highest level of authority and responsibility for the reliable operation of power grids and has wide visibility of bulk electric systems. With this new service, RC West will monitor the interconnected power grids in the West for compliance with federal and regional grid standards, authorize measures to prevent or mitigate system emergencies in day-ahead or real-time operations, and lead system restoration following major incidents. As an ISO and BA, we must adhere to strict oversight from key agencies, which include FERC, NERC, and WEC. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, is the independent U.S. federal entity that is the regulator of our market and, as such, has jurisdiction over interstate electricity sales, wholesale electric rates, natural gas and oil pipeline rates, reliability standards for the bulk power system, etc. FERC reviews the ISO market rules and transmission rates to ensure they are just and reasonable and do not create undue preferences or discrimination under the Federal Power Act. The North American Electric Reliability Corporation is the international regulatory authority whose mission is to ensure the reliability and security of the bulk power system in North America. NERC works with all stakeholders to develop and enforce standards for power system operation, physical and cybersecurity, and system operator preparedness, and then enforces compliance with these standards. They also work with the North American Energy Standards Board, or NASB, to develop standards, including e-tagging standards. The Western Electricity Coordinating Council, or WEC, is a nonprofit corporation responsible for coordinating and promoting bulk electric system reliability in the geographic area known as the Western Interconnection, which we displayed on an earlier slide. Here you see a chart of how the ISO is structured, which includes the various teams that you would most likely interact with. Using our Board of Governors as a starting point, you can see the relationship between departments, committees, and regional entities. Our board is comprised of 5 members that each serve a staggered 3-year term and are appointed by the Governor of California. Our Department of Market Monitoring reports directly to our board and is responsible for ensuring that the market remains competitive by analyzing market trends and market initiatives, identifying potential anti-competitive market behavior or market inefficiencies, and enforcing FERC decisions. In order to provide transparency, the Department of Market Monitoring produces regular reports that are available on our website. The main task of the Audit Committee is oversight of the ISO's budget and financial operations, while the Market Surveillance Committee provides the board with independent oversight of the markets. The EIM governing body is ancillary to the Board of Governors and exercises delegated authority from the Board of Governors over Western Energy Imbalance Market rules. There is also a body of state regulators that includes representation from 8 states responsible for advising the EIM governing body and ISO board on matters of interest. There is also a Regional Issues Forum that is the public vehicle for stakeholders to discuss EIM-related issues, including impacts to neighboring balancing authority areas. If we look in the center of the slide, our President and CEO is Steve Boberick. The Market and Infrastructure Development Team works on market design and the development of grid infrastructure. Market quality and renewable integration looks at market performance and integrating renewables into the market. The Technology, or IT division, manages the market and system applications as well as all corporate applications. They also maintain the highest standard of cybersecurity, critical to ensure the safety of grid and market operating systems as well as our customers. Our Operations Division maintains reliability, runs the market, and manages the process from bid to settlement. The General Counsel Division is our legal group that works on the ISO tariff and is the group that interacts with FERC, NERC, and WEC, and other agencies when it comes to filing, compliance, and regulation. The External and Customer Affairs team and Regional and Federal Affairs team interact with customers both within the ISO footprint and at the regional level as well. These interactions cover everyday questions as well as forward-looking policies such as improvements to the ISO market, EIM, and regional integration. Those of us on the customer readiness team are part of the external and customer affairs organization. With all of the functions of the ISO, it is imperative that these boards, committees, and departments work effectively together to serve the needs of our customers. Though we are not a state agency, we work with these agencies to implement state policy, perform studies, facilitate a fair and transparent wholesale electricity market, and drive innovation. The Air Resources Board's mission is to promote and protect public health, welfare, and ecological resources through the effective and efficient reduction of air pollutants while recognizing and considering the effects on the state's economy. One of their main focuses is limiting greenhouse gas emissions through programs that utilize renewable energy credits, or RECs. Generators can purchase these RECs in order to offset their air emissions and continue to operate their facilities. The California Energy Commission, or CEC, is responsible for the certification of electrical generation facilities as eligible renewable energy resources and adopting regulations for the enforcement of Renewable Portfolio Standards, or RPS, procurement requirements of public-owned utilities. The RPS is currently set at 60% of total energy procurement from eligible renewable energy sources by 2030, and the ISO is active in working to help achieve this goal. We also work with the California Senate and Assembly to effect change in the energy industry. The Water Resources Control Board is focusing on once-through cooling issues. We have a number of generators in California that are close to the coast and use seawater to aid in the conversion process of condensing steam back into water, which can have a detrimental effect on marine habitats. The Water Resources Control Board is coordinating a long-term effort with resources to find alternative ways to cool their plants or to possibly retire them. The ISO works with the Public Utilities Commission on resource adequacy and generation procurement. The CPUC implements and administers RPS compliance rules for California's retail sellers of electricity, which include large and small investor-owned utilities, electric service providers, and community choice aggregators. The CPUC adopted a resource adequacy, or RA, policy framework in 2004 in order to ensure the reliability of electric service in California. The CPUC established RA obligations applicable to all load-serving entities, or LSEs, within the CPUC's jurisdiction. The Commission's RA program guides resource procurement and promotes infrastructure investment by requiring that LSEs procure capacity so that capacity is available to the ISO when and where needed. The Integrated Resource Plan is an umbrella planning proceeding to consider all of the Commission's electric procurement policies and programs and ensure California has a safe, reliable, and cost-effective electricity supply. As I mentioned before, though we are not a state agency, we still want to help shape policies as they affect our customers and grid operations, so it is of great benefit for us to work closely with these entities inside of California as well as with agencies outside of California. But we don't just work with regulatory agencies, oversight boards, and state agencies. Partnership with our stakeholders is critical to the success of the ISO. Stakeholder input is essential to ISO planning processes and for the success of new initiatives, from policy development to implementation. We encourage you to participate in our stakeholder engagement opportunities. On our website, under the Stay Informed tab, you will find information on our stakeholder processes. This page lists all of the initiatives we're working on at the ISO and provides all of the papers and meeting schedules for those initiatives should you be interested in participating in the discussion. We are committed to providing ample chances for stakeholder input into our market design, implementation, and infrastructure planning activities. The stakeholder process will shape the market design and policies through a series of proposals, meetings, and comment periods, including any changes to our tariff. A great deal of documentation that we adhere to from a reliability and safety standpoint is defined by federal and regulatory standards. Our primary document is our tariff, which outlines the rates, terms, and conditions under which the ISO operates. The tariff is modified in collaboration with our stakeholders through our stakeholder process. Pertinent FERC rules are codified in our tariff, so any wholesale exchange of electricity in our market comes under their purview. To view our tariff and associated filings in a more user-friendly way, you can visit our e-tariff viewer that offers convenient access to all ISO-related files that are part of FERC's e-tariff system. We also have business practice manuals, or BPMs. The rules in our tariff can be high-level at times, so our BPM provides detailed rules, procedures, and examples for the administration, operation, planning, and accounting requirements of the California ISO and the market that are consistent with the ISO tariff. Adherence to the manuals is important for orderly operation of the ISO market. To ensure accuracy and clarity of the BPMs, we have a systematic and publicly transparent change management process called our Proposed Revision Requests, or PRRs, which include monthly meetings to discuss submitted change requests. Operating procedures guide the critical step-by-step actions of control room tasks. Some of these procedures are posted on our website, while others are confidential. The ISO is registered with NERC as a balancing authority, a transmission operator, a transmission service provider, planning coordinator, market operator, and reliability coordinator. Together, these roles are grouped into three main categories: reliability, infrastructure planning, and market operations. Let's take a look at each of these in a little more depth. As our industry moves into the future, we face challenges and competing priorities. Reliability is the foremost grid consideration, but it is not the only consideration. As more renewables and green power products are added into the power mix, as we expand our horizons, we face challenges related to under or oversupply and the need for more flexibility. When there is more electricity being generated than places to store or export it, or when there is too little supply, it could affect the reliability of the grid. The bottom line is that there are a lot of things we want to do, but there are cost, time, and impact considerations. Therefore, it is critical that we coordinate with several entities to plan the transmission needs of the ISO Balancing Authority area. Transmission planning at the ISO is an open and transparent process that actively engages stakeholder and public input and uses the best engineering analysis possible to determine short and long-term infrastructure needs of the ISO transmission grid, which is comprised of over 26,000 circuit miles, to maintain reliability and bring economic benefit to consumers. The ISO works closely with the CPUC and the CEC throughout the transmission planning process to identify and study reliability, policy-driven, and economically driven needs. Our transmission planning process begins annually and lasts 15 months. The process has two phases for project definition and evaluation, and a possible third for competitive solicitation for selected projects. In phase one, we are developing forward-looking assumptions. In phase two, we are performing analysis and identifying transmission needs. And if approved by the ISO board in phase three, we select proposals to build needed transmission projects. Just as we have a transmission planning process, we also have a robust generator interconnection process to help resources interconnect to the ISO grid. Our streamlined process helps resource owners understand the steps to interconnecting the resource to the ISO grid by providing requirement compliance information, as well as an assigned interconnection specialist to walk the entity through the entire process from the beginning through commercial operations. Let's take a high-level look at this process in the next slide. At a high level, the generator interconnection process starts when a resource submits a request to interconnect. This kicks off the generator interconnection study to determine reliability impacts to the system and identify any upgrades that need to be made. This study process takes just over 2 years to complete. After the studies and approval to move forward, interconnection agreements are signed, and then the new resource implementation process begins. Once this process is complete, the resource can begin participating in the market. The tariff allows 7 years for a project to reach its commercial operation date after the interconnection request is submitted. An important item to note is how critical it is to pay attention to deadline dates. It is important to keep all projects moving forward as many processes are linked and feed one another. One of the main tasks of the queue management specialist is to make sure the projects in the queue or process are moving along and interconnection customers are meeting their dates to ensure that generation resources can be interconnected in an efficient manner. An ISO typically has a competitive energy market, which most BAs do not have. As a registered market operator, we act as a marketplace for wholesale power, or basically a clearinghouse under the exclusive jurisdiction of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. The ISO wholesale energy market is comprised of distinct day-ahead and real-time processes. The energy products and services traded in our market allow us to meet reliability needs and serve load. The day-ahead energy market enables parties with bilateral agreements to schedule their contracted supply and demand into the market, to offload excess supply in the form of energy or ancillary services, and secure pricing due to changes in load forecasts or for incremental changes in demand. Most demand is met in advance of the market through utility-owned or bilaterally procured resources. ISO's real-time energy market has the hour-ahead scheduling process, which enables import and export resources to schedule their megawatts hourly, as well as a 15-minute market, or FMM, that allows variable energy resources, such as wind and solar, to submit energy forecasts and decremental bids closer to the financially binding interval, which increases bid accuracy. The 5-minute market is intended to meet the instantaneous demand. The ISO market offers a full network model that analyzes generation and transmission schedules submitted a day in advance to better manage or avoid real-time bottlenecks. The full network model is a representation of the generation and transmission in the entire Western interconnection. With this model, we are able to see where there might be constraints on the electric grid. The full network model automatically runs every 15 minutes to reevaluate the impacts of actual or potential system changes. Energy is the actual electricity needed to meet the demand of the consumers. In general, much of the energy used within California is procured through bilateral contracts outside of the ISO market, in which supply is purchased under contract to meet demand. This energy needs to be scheduled into the ISO markets so that the ISO can use the information to monitor the physical energy flows on the system. In most cases, energy that is produced outside of the ISO markets is submitted as a self-schedule. The day-ahead market enables suppliers to submit into the markets energy not under contract and enables buyers to procure additional supply in the event they do not have enough under contract to meet their demand. We use demand forecasts, which allow us to know how much energy will be awarded in real time to meet load requirements. The ISO must project how much energy will be needed and how much will be available for the next day, the day after that, the following week and month, and into the following year. And we do this through robust forecasting practices. The more accurate data we have, the more accurate the demand forecast. Therefore, the ISO is consistently working on improving load, wind, and solar forecasts in the day-ahead, hour-ahead, and real-time horizon to keep the lights on and the costs low for consumers. Now let's take a brief overview of the market timelines. We just briefly talked about the day-ahead and real-time markets, and this diagram here shows the relationship between the two. As you can see, they're very similar. In the day-ahead market, bids are submitted, the market process is run, bids clear the market, and market results are published. There are a number of market applications involved in this process. When the day-ahead market is published, this triggers the opening of the real-time market. Bids are once again submitted along with base schedules from our EIM participants. Market processes run, bids clear the market, and dispatch orders are sent and received. The market is then settled in our post-market processes. Now let's break this down a little further. The day-ahead market opens 8 days before the trade date and closes at 10 a.m. the day before. The day-ahead market is made up of 3 market processes that run sequentially. First, the ISO runs a market power mitigation test. Bids that fail the test are revised to predetermined limits. These market power mitigation measures are intended to provide the means for the ISO to mitigate the market effects of any conduct that would substantially distort competitive outcomes in the ISO markets while avoiding unnecessary interference with competitive price signals. The second process is the integrated forward market, which establishes the generation needed to meet bid-in demand. Market prices are set based on bids. And last, the residual unit commitment process secures capacity from additional resources in order to meet the forecasted demand for the next day. These processes are co-optimized to produce a day-ahead schedule at least cost while meeting local reliability needs. The final step of the day-ahead market is to publish the market results at approximately 1300. Now we'll take a look at the real-time market timeline. There are 3 main timelines in the real-time market. Bids from all market participants and base schedules from the Energy Imbalance Market are submitted 75 minutes before each trade hour. These bids are used in the hourly processes for intertie transactions, the 15-minute market, and the real-time dispatch, which occurs every 5 minutes. The real-time market fine-tunes the flow of electricity to follow fluctuations in supply and demand. As we move into the real-time market at least 5 hours ahead, we look at our updated forecast and begin committing resources as necessary. From the time the day-ahead market schedules are posted to 75 minutes before the trade hour, bids can be submitted for the real-time market. The hour-ahead scheduling process is a process for scheduling energy and ancillary services based on the bids submitted by imports or exports. Internal resources will receive advisory schedules for the next hour, and imports or exports will receive financially binding commitments. In our real-time unit commitment process, the ISO makes final decisions on resource commitments to adjust the day-ahead schedule. Inputs into the real-time market include the day-ahead results, master file, real-time system information, supplemental energy bids, outage information, and transmission line information. The market results generate real-time dispatches, ancillary service awards, and startup or shutdown instructions via our automated dispatch system. These signals are sent out every 5 minutes. Now, before we get started on the next section, we've reached about halfway through the presentation. So Will, at this time, if you would, let's take a question break and see if there's anybody on the line or anybody who's submitted a written question.
All right, sure thing. So to submit a question, select all panelists from the drop-down menu in the chat panel, then enter your question in the message box provided and send. And alternatively, you can press #2 on your telephone keypad. You'll then hear a notification when your line has been unmuted. At that time, please then state your question. All right, we currently have no questions in the queue.
Okay, let's continue. With regard to reliability, the ISO is responsible for the constant and reliable flow of electricity for the health, safety, and welfare of consumers. Maintaining reliability is a balancing act that requires a lot of expertise and controlling many moving parts. So what is reliability? In short, it is all about keeping the lights on, and our system operations is at the forefront of this task. Our operators are responsible for maintaining the reliability of the grid by balancing supply and demand using various resource types. Operators are located in 2 control centers, which are continuously connected in real time through instant video conferencing capability. Both control rooms are operated 24/7, and though Folsom is the primary control room, Lincoln is sharing duties so that entire operation of the grid can be transferred between control rooms at any time. There are multiple redundancies on all systems, providing one of the highest levels of dependability in computer system operations. As mentioned in the last slide, reliability of the electric grid is a primary focus. Electricity is produced, delivered, and consumed at nearly the speed of light, and throughout this process, the goal is to maintain grid frequency at 60 Hertz in order to keep the system safe and keep the lights on. Electricity is produced by the supply, which consists of generation and imports. Electricity is delivered via transmission and distribution lines, and then consumed by the demand, which are the loads and exports. Maintaining this balance between these two is similar to driving a car on a highway and trying to keep your car at 60 miles an hour. Like a gas pedal on a car, in order to maintain 60 Hertz, you either increase or decrease generation to meet changes in demand. Because of the instantaneous nature, the ISO uses technology that takes a pulse of the system every few seconds, and our highly skilled and trained system operators constantly monitor multiple bits of data to be able to instantly react to fluctuating conditions, such as weather changes and sudden supply shortfalls or surpluses. There are a number of ways to participate in the ISO market, and any interactions where the ISO will provide services require entities to go through processes that consist of signing contracts and non-disclosure agreements, passing tests, and gaining access to applications as necessary. Depending on the resource capabilities, market participants can elect to bid into the energy and ancillary services market or sell other electricity products. Physical supply and demand are bids for those resources that have the ability to provide or consume the energy needed on the bulk electric system. Convergence bids, or bids for virtual supply or virtual demand, are financial positions taken in the day-ahead market and liquidated in the real-time market. Convergence bidding is designed to reduce the average price differences between day-ahead and real-time, as well as the volatility of the difference between day-ahead and real-time prices. Ancillary services are considered capacity products and help maintain the reliability of the grid by ensuring that we have additional resources held back in reserve so that we have the ability to handle different types of contingency events, whether short-term regulation or operational needs that must be converted and covered within a 10-minute window. Residual unit commitment is a way to ensure that the ISO procures enough capacity to meet the day-ahead forecast by bridging the gap between the physical resources that clear the day-ahead market compared to the forecasted demand for that day. Flexible ramping products provide additional upward and downward flexible ramping capacity to account for uncertainty due to demand and renewable forecasting errors in the real-time market. It ensures that some unloaded capacity is reserved to be dispatched as energy if needed. As we mentioned earlier, the ISO is now providing reliability coordination services for 16 electricity balancing authorities and transmission operators, primarily in California, and 1 in New Mexico, using its RC West service. Congestion revenue rights are financial instruments made available through allocation and auction processes that enable rights holders to manage congestion cost variability based on locational marginal pricing. These rights are acquired primarily for offsetting congestion costs that occur in the day-ahead market. Inter-SC trades are an optional accounting service that we offer to help facilitate financial transactions between our scheduling coordinator entities. Though there are many ways to interact with the ISO, only a scheduling coordinator is authorized to transact business directly with the ISO. A scheduling coordinator is an entity authorized by the ISO to buy and sell power into the ISO market. SCs bid and schedule their supply into the market or submit demand bids, and then based on the awards, energy flows across the transmission system and is distributed to the consumer by local utilities. If an entity chooses not to become a scheduling coordinator, it would need to contract the services of a certified scheduling coordinator to participate on their behalf. SCs may include convergence bidders, demand response providers, utility-owned generation, independent generators, energy imbalance market participants, and power marketers. Power marketers are entities that do not own or use generation but act as a broker between power sellers and power buyers. There is a process that entities must complete in order to be qualified as a scheduling coordinator, including mandatory training, financial and testing requirements, as well as ongoing adherence to policies. For more information on becoming a scheduling coordinator, visit the ISO website or refer to the Scheduling Coordinator Certification and Termination Business Practice Manual. The Energy Imbalance Market, or EIM, is an extension of the ISO's real-time market offered to any balancing authority in the western area of North America. It provides a low-cost, low-risk option that balances load and resources automatically and economically. Full market members seamlessly participate in both the day-ahead and real-time markets, while Energy Imbalance Market, or EIM entities, only participate in the real-time market. Participants are able to submit bids which will be utilized by the ISO to optimize energy transfer and generation output between all EIM participants in both 15 and 5-minute increments. The ISO operates the only EIM in the West and uses advanced ISO market systems which automatically choose low-cost resources to reliably meet customer demand. We have several participants in the EIM market and more planned to join in the coming years. This slide here compares the difference between an EIM environment and a non-EIM environment. So on the left, first, if we look in a non-EIM environment, each BA, or balancing authority, is balancing loads and resources within their own border. In this situation, there may be a limited pool of balancing resources. BAs may carry a high level of reserves. There may be economic inefficiencies or increased costs to integrate other renewable resources. In an EIM framework, the market dispatches resources across BAs to balance energy, and there is a diversity of balancing resources, decreased flexible reserves, and the dispatch is more economically efficient, and there's decreased integration costs with the ability to share resources across this larger pool. Now let's move into our post-market processes where we talk about the financial activity. Each market transaction is distinct and will be accounted for separately in a stack of coded transactions and associated prices based on market activity and data pulled from meters. Meter data is used for billable quantities to represent the energy generated or consumed during a settlement interval. Raw data is submitted and processed into settlement quality meter data, which is used in the settlement process. Direct measurement of a generator or load participant through telemetry allows the ISO to manage and monitor power generation in real time. The calculation, billing, and invoices of charges and payments for market and transmission-related activities between market participants and the ISO occur during the settlement or post-market process. Our day-ahead and real-time markets are distinct from another and settle out financially in our post-market processes. One principle to keep in mind is that ISO market results are stacked like pancakes. What happens in day-ahead stays in day-ahead, and real-time changes to schedules and their associated prices will be stacked separately for accounting purposes for both the 15-minute market and the 5-minute market. Entities can review all of these market transactions on their individual settlement statements, which we will talk about next. This diagram that we're looking at here simplifies the energy settlements for the day-ahead market and two real-time markets. In this example, this resource was awarded 120 megawatts in the day-ahead. That's the large blue section there at the bottom. Incremented an additional 24 megawatts in the 15-minute market, which is the green section there in the middle, and then an additional 12 megawatts in real time. The way this transaction across this hour is settled is that 120 megawatts will be paid at the day-ahead price. The additional 24 megawatts are paid at the FMM price, and the additional 12 on top of that will be paid at the real-time dispatch price. This simplified example demonstrates that each transaction that occurs will be listed separately on the statement for each market as well as for each type of transaction. Of course, there is a lot more to settlements, and each type of transaction is accounted for separately in a different charge code. Meter data is used for billable quantities to represent the energy generated or consumed during a settlement interval. Late meter data impacts settlement statements for the entire market. Therefore, we have rules of conduct in place to outline the specific requirements and expectations of market participants. The goal is to turn revenue quality meter data into settlement quality meter data that can be submitted to the ISO for settlement processing. Meter data is collected in one of two ways. The meter can be directly polled by the ISO, or meter data can be sent in by the scheduling coordinator for the purpose of reporting the actual performance of the resource. Revenue quality meter data is required by the ISO for entities internal to the BA. A meter installation and certification process by ISO authorized meter inspectors takes place to ensure that meters are up to standard. Raw meter data is acquired directly by the ISO, and the goal is to turn that raw or revenue quality meter data into settlement quality meter data by putting it through our validation, estimation, and editing process. Settlement quality meter data is acceptable for entities external to the ISO BA, and the metering timeline for data submission, we will talk about that on the next slide. An annual self-certification process is in place to ensure that metering is accurate. Settlements are the calculation, billing, and invoicing of charges and payments for market and transmission-related activities between market participants and the ISO. The settlement cycle follows a specific timeline and processes for publication of statements, invoices, and payment advices, dispute submittals, and payments. Day-ahead results and real-time results, along with the meter data, flow through the settlement process and output a settlement statement for each trade date. Formulas are associated with each charge code to determine how transactions will be settled. These calculations are broken down on the daily settlement statements and then collated into weekly invoices which identify charges to be remitted and payment advices that show what will be paid out. Each entity will receive a series of settlement statements by trade date. Initial settlement statements are only an estimate of the final result, and marginal adjustments may be needed to make several months after the trade date. Invoices or payment advices for market transactions are published weekly on Wednesdays and include market transactions from trading days Monday through Sunday of the previous week. Invoices are due for payment by 10 a.m. on the following Tuesday. Payment advices are then distributed as applicable at 2 p.m. that same Tuesday afternoon. As the ISO is a not-for-profit organization, all of the money that comes into the market gets dispersed back out into the market, with the exception of our grid management charges, or GMC, that covers specified operating costs. The diagram down here at the bottom depicts the daily settlement timelines, which show how many times one trade date will be processed for adjustments and accurate calculations. The T here indicates trade date, so the first trade date, T plus 3B, is the first estimated statement that is produced by the reporting system. The next time this data will be processed for updates or changes will be at the T plus 12B milestone, which will include any meter data submitted by T plus 8B, as shown down there on the bottom in the yellow circle. There are also, or orange, there are also subsequent statements that are published periodically thereafter. There may or may not be adjustments in future settlement statements, but entities will only be responsible for the amount that changes from the previous settlement statement. For more information on what happens on each of these dates, visit the Settlement CBT on our Learning Center. A key point is that data must be submitted on time in order to allow the settlement processes to proceed more quickly. Late meter data impacts settlement statements for the entire market. Therefore, we have rules of conduct in place to outline the specific requirements and expectations of market participants. The ISO has a payment calendar which keeps track of each calendar day and the settlement activity occurring on that date. We'll share a link to the payment calendar at the end of these slides. The Grid Management Charge, or GMC, is the vehicle through which the ISO recovers all of its annual administrative, operating, and capital costs from the entities that utilize the ISO services. The GMC was implemented with stakeholders and FERC to provide a simplified and transparent rate design that will increase clarity, predictability, and simplicity. SCs will receive charges that apply to various activities on their settlement statements. In June of each year, we review the ISO current financial condition with stakeholders and gather their input for the budget process for the next calendar year. We follow up with a meeting in October to review and discuss our draft budget before finalizing it and requesting Board of Governors approval in December. Will, let's go ahead and take another question break here, if you will, to see if there's anybody who has a verbal question or has written a question down in the chat.
All right, well, once again, by pressing pound and then 2, you can place yourself into the question queue. And while we're waiting for people to do that, I do see there is one chat question. And they ask, how is the RC West different from the WECC?
The RC West is providing the reliability coordinator function, so it works with WEC in conjunction with WEC, but it is actually the entity that is responsible for, let me refer back to my notes so I can tell you exactly what it's doing. That was 30 slides ago. So the reliability coordinator is the entity with the highest level of authority and responsibility for the reliable operation of power grids, and it has wide visibility of the bulk electric system. So with this new service, we monitor the interconnected power grids in the West for compliance with federal and regional grid standards and authorize measures to prevent or mitigate system emergencies in real time. So this is real-time monitoring, whereas WEC is providing oversight over the region and less involved with the day-to-day operations of the BAs from a monitoring your ACE and making sure everything is working properly and the frequency is being held at the appropriate level. Does that help answer your question?
All right, there are no future questions in the phone lines.
Okay, so let me continue. If you'll let me pause for just a moment. All right, so here we're going to go over information that is available for you provided through the ISO's website. On our webpage, CAISO.com, there are a number of tabs along the top of the home page, and I'll talk to you about a few of them. I don't know if you can see the mouse that I'm pointing at, but over here under the About Us tab, it will explain information about the company. The Participate tab explains different ways for each type of resource or entity to participate in the ISO market. It also happens to be one of the home for our Learning Center, comes off of the Participate menu. The Stay Informed tab is where you can find information about new initiatives and also where you can sign up for daily briefings. The Planning tab talks about the transmission planning process and generator interconnection process that we started to discuss earlier in the presentation. Under Market Operations, you'll find a large variety of reports that are available that explain how the market is actually operating, as well as a section for settlements and other areas there. The Rules tab covers the tariff, the business practice manuals, and the operating procedures. If you look in the middle upper part of the website, you can see a Today's Outlook section. This provides real-time information. Here you can see that we publish the current system demand as well as today's forecasted peak. And if you click on that section, it will take you to a page that has many graphs of the current day's load and available resources. Also of interest is a new monthly report that we have developed that provides information about the renewable energy market. You can find that report off of the Market and Operations menu, clicking the Reports tab. This offers a broad menu of metrics related to renewable energy, net demand, oversupply, curtailments, reliability, and negative pricing. Down at the lower portion of the slide, you can see a link or a button that says Join Us, which provides a wide range of information from becoming a scheduling coordinator or EIM entity to finding out how to gain access to ISO applications to following how storage technologies continue to evolve. For more information on the current state of the energy imbalance market and how it will continue to evolve, please visit our Western EIM website. This site provides a great deal of resource material, including computer-based training modules that you can view. Reliability is an essential element of operating the electric grid, and as I mentioned earlier, the ISO has newly become a reliability coordinator and is offering these services to other balancing authorities in the Western United States. You can visit the RC West page on our website for more information about the services provided by RC West. You will see information about the timeline, and also in addition you will see maps that show the location of and the entities that intend to participate when we roll this out to a larger footprint in November. After the presentation, when you are able to look at these slides that are going to be posted to the website, You have the ability to click on the links here to hear directly from an ISO operator and market operator about a day in the life from our control room. These are interesting and informative, and they're posted on YouTube. The links will be clickable in the presentation that is posted. On our open access same time information system, or OASIS, you will find real-time data related to the ISO transmission system and its market, such as system demand forecasts, transmission outage and capacity status, market prices, and market result data. While some information about resources is proprietary, there is a great deal of information available to the public, and this application allows for that data to be pulled and used by anyone or any interested entity. You can see we're circling the list of report menus here on OASIS that provide reports across information related to the transmission system, related to pricing, related to energy imbalance market. All of that type of information can be downloaded from the OASIS website. Today's Outlook is the ISO's most visited public web page, which allows viewers to quickly see changing patterns of supply and demand, forecasts and actual peaks, energy supplies by resource type, real-time energy prices, and renewable energy production. The updated net load graph depicts daily system ramps reflecting changes occurring on the power supply system as renewables become the dominant supply resource. I mentioned this earlier. This is the type of thing that you can see when you click on the Today's Outlook section of the main page of the ISO website. You can also find this up-to-date information about what is happening on the grid and at the ISO using our ISO Today app, which is available through Google Play or the Apple Store, depending on your phone type. Earlier in the presentation, we talked about our business practice manuals. These can be found off of the Rules tab on the ISO website. Business practice manuals provide detailed rules, procedures, and examples for the administration, operations, planning, and accounting requirements of the ISO and the market that are consistent with the ISO tariff. Our systematic and publicly transparent change management process ensures the consideration of all relevant information when modifying the manuals. The change management processes use a system available through the ISO public website that provides a way to propose BPM changes, comment on open change requests, and track proposed change requests. The change management process begins when the ISO or a stakeholder submits a web-based proposed revision request. After an ISO review, these revision requests are posted to the website, which triggers a stakeholder review and comment period. ISO recommendations are discussed in monthly meetings with stakeholders prior to any changes being made. There is a lot happening at the ISO and in the industry in general, so to stay up to date, please sign up for the ISO's daily briefing, which is a once-a-day summary email of announcements. The daily briefing also provides a comprehensive summary of ISO news and activities, including announcements of upcoming calendar events, regulatory filings, and any new or enhanced features added to the ISO website. With California at the vanguard of the transition to renewable energy, all the world's eyes are on the ISO's innovation, technology, and strategies for greening the grid. Public affairs and media relations are at the heart of the ISO's mission to inform, educate, and promote the clean, reliable electric system and efficient market of the future. We have our media hotline information here, as well as the email address to our media department. To enhance service to our customers and simplify doing business with the ISO, we provide a comprehensive website for IT developers that consolidates the technical documentation developers need for the ISO's application programming interfaces, or APIs, allowing developers to find connectivity instructions, interface definition files, sample code and URLs, frequently asked questions, and get started guides along with a glossary of acronyms and technical terminology common in specification documents. The California ISO is committed to providing our customers with a broad menu of high-quality training courses on the ISO market functionality, as well as individual market applications. These courses are organized into areas of focus or tracks that are designed to be an industry resource for market participants and the general public to learn about electric grids and markets and the ISO's role in the electricity system. We are continuing to evolve our training programs and enhance our training materials to better meet the various levels of experience, technical levels, and needs of our customers, and to make it a more user-friendly experience. We are also creating more computer-based trainings and learning bursts to break down some of these complicated subjects into bite-sized, manageable pieces, so please keep an eye on this page to find updated content and learning opportunities. These next two pages here are your toolkit or links to additional information that we referred to as we went through the presentation. In the document that's posted on the website, each of these links will be clickable so that you can easily access the data that you're interested in. This page here contains additional links related to the transmission planning and generator interconnection process. In addition, there are links to the materials presented at our Resource Interconnection Fair, which is an educational forum intended to help participants understand the processes involved in connecting resources to the California ISO grid. The format provides an opportunity to learn about the various aspects of resource interconnection, from initiating a new interconnection request through commercial operation of your resource. There's also a contact email down there if you have any questions related to the interconnection request process. We will post this presentation to our Learning Center under the Markets and Operations path link. This presentation and the embedded links will act as your toolkit to help you find more information on each topic. In a few more days, a recording of the webinar will be posted if you are interested in listening to any part again, or if you would like to bring it to the attention of others in your organizations. Now, Will, before we conclude the call, this will be our final opening for a question break, and we did allocate ample time for this webinar to have questions answered. So if you will, write your questions in the chat or pose a verbal question.
All right, and one more time, for you to submit a verbal question, you can place yourself in the question queue by pressing pound and then 2 on your telephone keypad. All right, there are no questions on the phone lines, but we do have one question in the chat, and they ask, are EIM participants public information?
Yes, the list of EIM participants is public. If you look on our Western EIM page, you can see all of the EIM entities that are currently participating and also those slated to join us over the next series of years. Any other questions, Will?
Yeah, we just got one more in the chat. Okay. And they ask, where will this presentation be posted?
This presentation will be posted in our Learning Center, which is under, if you hover over Participate on the ISO website and go down to the Learning Center tab, it will be posted there later today, and then the recording of this webinar will be posted in a couple of days once we receive that recorded MP4. Any other questions, Will?
There are no further questions in the queue.
All right, I have some closing information here. If you have additional questions or anything that you would like to ask further about what we presented here today, or where to find more information, you can email them to us at customertraining@CAISO.com. For those of you who signed into today's webinar, you will be receiving an email from customertraining@CAISO.com that will include a link to a survey. We highly encourage you to take a few minutes to complete the survey to let us know how we can better serve your training needs. And at this point, we're concluding our welcome session today. Thank you for your participation. We hope you found it useful and informative. Have a great day.
That concludes our conference. Thank you for using AT&T Event Conferencing Enhanced. You may now disconnect.